Ooh, 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 ooh. Look at that perfect medium rare. And this is what you get with sous vide. Chef Brian Tsao here, not your typical chef. And today I'm going to be reacting to a very requested, by the way, channel of sous vide everything. We tried the sauce that makes everything better. Before I go on with today's episode, I do want to shout out my newest sous chef level patrons, Azel, Chester Wolfcamp, Joe Kem. Thank you so much for your support. You, along with all the patrons, really do make a difference on this channel. And for those of you who are watching, please consider becoming a patron. By becoming a patron, you get to take advantage of some awesome perks like discounts off my merch store, but also priority on suggestions for the next episodes on this channel. Finally, if you do me a huge favor and follow my band Lost Becomes on Instagram, we are getting ready to put out a new single. So if you like big riffs, angry music, need something good to work out to, this will be your jam. As I mentioned earlier, this was a highly requested channel to react to after I did a reaction to Guga Foods, and man, am I excited. So with that said, let's react to some shit.
And here we have the star of today's show, Maggi sauce. Now you've asked me to give this a try, and for good reason, as many people consider this the secret weapon to make all food taste better. It does check a lot of boxes. It's inexpensive, widely available, a more complex flavor than soy sauce, and just a few drops will amp up the flavor of anything.
Very accurate. It's a flavor enhancer. It's really delicious. It's similar to soy sauce. Guga did mention that it's more complex. I would agree with that. If I'm not mistaken, this is made from wheat, whereas soy sauce is made from soybeans. Similar process. Both soy sauce and Maggi seasoning have a lot of umami, and this is one of those things that's just gonna, like MSG, is just kind of like uplift everything, give it an overall really wonderful roundness to it. And when I say roundness, really I'm referring to umami. Anyone who's unfamiliar, umami is the Japanese word for like the savory flavor. So, you know, in the Western world, sweet, salty, bitter, sour, right? And then there in Japan, they have a word for the savory element, which is umami. Let's keep watching.
I'll be using it in these 3 beautiful steaks. Take a look. They're all ribeyes. They have a great marbling on them. That's these little white spectacles you see throughout the steaks.
Yep.
The more of these little white things you got in the middle, the better.
Ribeyes, nice tender cut. It's literally right on the rib section. The ribeye is in the center. It's the eye of it. You know, ribeyes are, again, tender, but have really good marbling, a lot of fat content, so it's going to be juicy, tender. It's just, a ribeye needs no introduction. And you rub some Maggi seasoning all over that. I mean, yeah.
For the very first steak, we're going to be using this steak right here. Now this one is pretty simple. All I gotta do is to add a lot of that Maggi sauce right on top of it. Then using a brush, I spread the whole thing around, ensuring that the whole thing is covered with it. I don't want to overdo it though, because this Maggi sauce is quite strong, so brushing it is the way to go. And once I was done, take a look. Comparing them with the other steaks, you can clearly see that this thing is completely different. But now we gotta get them seasoned, so I wanted to keep it exactly the same. That way the only differences between them is the sauce. So I went with a good amount of salt, followed by freshly ground black pepper and garlic powder.
The steak seasoned with the Maggi sauce. He did put salt on that. Maggi sauce is salty, maybe too salty, but the steaks are cut thick enough. I think it'll be okay. Again, he's doing a test. What's the difference if we kept everything the same minus having one rubbed with the Maggi sauce?
Up, vacuum sealed them, and they were now ready for sous vide. Now for the second steak, this is what we're gonna do. Instead of cooking it with the Maggi sauce, I'm gonna make a custom sauce. And here's how to do it. Into a saucepan, I added about 1 tablespoon of avocado oil.
Avocado oil, very nice. I like avocado oil. Avocado oil it's very versatile, very neutral in flavor. It's my preferred oil that I use every day at home. And also it's, I think I mentioned it's neutral. It's got a high smoke point, and then finally, it's a cold pressed oil, so there's not much processing that's required to get oil out of, you know, just like olives, that extra virgin olive oil, it's the first pressing, doesn't require much manipulation to get the oil out of the olives. Same thing with avocado oil.
Shallots. Started to cook it up, but I don't want it to brown. Once everything was simmering down, I threw in some garlic. Before it started to brown the whole thing,
Can't go wrong with that. Shallots and garlic sweated out. You know, when you sweat it out, you're reducing the moisture content, you're concentrating the flavors, it becomes aromatic. He's cooking it until translucent, which I'm assuming is where he wants to take it, before he adds the next part of his sauce.
immediately added the Maggi sauce, a very good amount. To be specific, about 3 tablespoons. Mixed everything well and brought it to a simmer. Then I added heavy cream, about 1 cup. Seasoned it with freshly ground black pepper. Mixed everything well and brought it to a simmer. We want this sauce to thicken up, so I let the whole thing reduce to about half. Because once I was happy with the consistency, my sauce was done. And you saw how easy it is to make, and
So
it takes
easy.
no time
Yep.
at all. We're
Very
going to be
simple.
using this for our very second stage.
Wonderful. So a very basic, easy sauce, and what he did to thicken it, he didn't add any starches or anything. He just reduced it, removed the moisture content. You cook it over medium to low heat, and then the moisture will slowly come out. It'll thicken. Heavy cream is great at this. It has a very high threshold as opposed to something like milk, which can curdle easily. It can break easily. Well, curdling and breaking are kind of more or less the same thing, but not technically not true. I'm not going to get into the science of that. But heavy cream, you can really reduce that super, super low and it won't break on you. So nice call. Shallots, garlic, Maggi seasoning, finished with heavy cream, reduced till thick. That's going to be off the chain, and it's super easy.
Control. But now that we got the sauces ready and also the steaks, we can't just eat that. So I decided to make an incredible side dish. Now this one might be even easier than the sauce. Now the great thing about it is that it can stand on its own as a main dish because it is so good. And to make it, it's super simple, and here's how. Into a carbon steel pan, I added a little bit of avocado oil. Immediately threw in some ground beef. Remember, it releases a lot of juices right in the beginning, so keeping it under high heat is the way to go.
Nice. This guy's got good attention to detail, so that's exactly it. You know, ground beef, it's ground up. It has a lot of surface area. As you cook it, it's going to spew a lot of moisture much quicker than a whole cut of meat. You know, in theory, has the same amount of moisture, but it doesn't have as much surface area, so it's not going to spew out as easily. So he's mentioning, hey, this is going to, this is going to let out a lot of moisture. Keep it on the high heat, because as the moisture comes out, it's going to be harder to maintain the heat level. So by keeping it on high, number one, you're not boiling it, right? Because the juices are coming out, and now the meat is sitting in its own juices, which is, in itself delicious. But, you definitely get more flavor when the meat is actually searing to a certain degree. That's harder to do with ground beef unless it's a patty. Keep it on high heat so that you can continue to cook out that moisture and actually sear that beef versus letting it boil in its own juice.
Not add any seasoning to this beef. That's because we're gonna add the Maggi sauce right now. A good amount. Now this thing is flavorful and salty. So instead of adding salt, this is my salty element.
Good call.
Then I mixed everything together and tasted for seasoning. And I'll tell you one thing, it was perfect. I'm quite impressed how well this tastes with just the sauce by itself. This thing should be really good with our steaks.
I like that he did it at the end. If he did it at the beginning, I think it would have gotten too salty. So he cooked it to a point where, I'm going to assume he got it to close to where he wanted it as far as doneness. Put it in at the end, stirred it in a little bit because, again, he didn't want that Maggi sauce to reduce too much and then get overly salty. He could have used less too. I mean, listen, there's more than one way to do anything. So all I'm saying is I like the way he approached it, where he put the Maggi sauce at the end.
Next thing to do is to add a little bit of oil into the clean pan, followed by some minced shallots, minced garlic, and ginger paste.
If Uncle Roger was watching, this is where he'd be going, why so lazy? Chop up the garlic fresh. I agree with that. I worked at a place where they were using a lot of ginger paste and this paste and that paste, and it does make it easier, and it's not as time consuming, obviously, because it's ready to go. But for me, generally, I always like to use fresh ginger. I think the flavor is superior, and you don't have to use nearly as much if it's fresh. Not the end of the world. I would have preferred fresh ginger in this scenario.
We don't want the steak to burn. At the same time, we want to bring out the flavors by cooking it for 1 minute. It is ideal to mix it up little by little. The last thing we want is for the garlic to burn. Once it became fragrant and noticed that it's not brown yet, I added some koju spicy flakes.
Gochugaru. Okay, gochugaru is Korean chili flake. You know, what he's doing here is he's sweating it out. You heard him say he doesn't want it to brown. Again, that's caramelization. He's just looking to sweat it. Again, concentrate the flavors in the garlic, in the shallot, before he moves on to his next step.
Combine the ingredients together. Cook it for an additional 1 minute. Then I added some oyster sauce. Mix everything together and cook it for an additional 1 minute. Keep in mind to keep the heat in low. If not, things are just gonna burn on you. As the next thing to do is to add our noodles. You can use any noodles you like, but I chose to use these egg noodles today, as the only thing to do now is to mix everything together and combine. Add a little bit of dark soy sauce, followed by the Maggi ground beef we just cooked. Mix everything well until everything is fully covered with it. Taste it for seasoning, and if it's needed, add a little bit of salt, followed by freshly ground black pepper. Mix it a little bit more. Throw it into a nice serving dish. Add some green onions right on top, because today's side dish is done. Now I'll tell you one thing, it is so good by itself that it can be a meal. I hate to call it a side dish, as it's much more. However, it's going to be pairing up perfect with our steaks.
So I like that dish. Very nice. Execution was good. Me personally, the way I would have, nothing wrong with Guga's execution, just for me personally, the way I would have done it is, actually, I would have put in the garlic at the end raw. And when I say at the end, so I would have done all the steps minus the garlic. So the shallots, sweat it out, put in gochugaru. Actually, gochugaru, yeah, could put it in the beginning or the end. So put the gochugaru towards the end. The oyster sauce was a nice touch. The dark soy was a nice touch. He kind of cooked that, got the flavors concentrated. Then he put in his egg noodle, the beef, some Maggi seasoning, and then in a separate bowl, so mixed it in the pan. And then I wouldn't put it in a separate bowl. I put in just a little touch of raw garlic, chopped up super fine. Mix that up, because I would have wanted some of that raw garlic pop. That's not for everybody. That's something I'm taking from, a technique I'm taking from an old Taiwanese noodle restaurant that I used to own. That's the Chinese takeout place that I accidentally took over trying to make a Taiwanese noodle restaurant. Long story. I mentioned I'd talk about that in the future at some point. But anyway, then finish with the scallions on top. Very nice, but again, I would still eat the shit out of the version that Guga made.
The thing left to do is to go ahead and cook them. For that, I'll be doing so at 129 degrees Fahrenheit for 1.5 hours. Nice. And the reason for that is because these steaks are not as thick as my usual ones, and I cannot wait to find out which one is gonna be best.
Okay, so 129 degrees for an hour and a half. For me, I always consider medium rare. 135, they generally say between 130 and 140. So 130 will be on the rarer side, and then 140 will be, you're going more towards the medium side. So 135 degrees, he's taking it a little under. I'm assuming he's gonna do some sort of reverse sear. He did mention it's a thinner steak, so good call. Cook, sous vide it a little under what you want, because when you sear it, it's going to cook a few degrees again, and it'll probably, by the time it's seared to where he wants, searing, getting that Maillard reaction, getting that crust, that caramelization on the outside of the steak, by the time he gets that to where he wants, the steak should be at the perfect medium rare.
As you guys know, I do not like spicy food too much, but that pasta...
What? You don't like spicy food too much? Guga, I'll give you a pass. I'll give you a pass.
A bit just for seasoning. Lord have mercy, because that was delicious. At the same time, which one is it gonna be better? The steak cooked on the sauce, or the sauce we just made it separately? I cannot wait to find out, because the steaks are ready. We are hungry.
I really like this guy's enthusiasm, he's yearning for more knowledge. He's just experimenting. He's going for it, man. And he doesn't have the constraints of owning a restaurant, having to serve a product consistently day in, day out. Basically, he's got a research kitchen where he can do whatever the hell he wants and, to satisfy his curiosity. And that was pretty much that is my favorite part of working on any restaurant project, is the R&D phase. You learn so much, you get to think outside of the box, try new things, sometimes to success, sometimes it's terrible, but now you know, don't do the terrible thing again. That doesn't work. I would love to work with this dude. I would love to collab with him if he would ever recognize me in my small channel, my small growing channel, thanks to you guys. By the way, hit that like button, that subscribe, and make sure you give Guga and Sous-vide everything some props too, because again, without their videos, I wouldn't have a channel. Looks like shit, but I know that's gonna be tender and juicy as hell, and you reverse sear that, it's gonna be amazing.
Because it needs some flamethrower action on it. Now, as you know, one was already cooked with the sauce inside. The other one, we made it separately. So as soon as I slice it open after the sear, I'm gonna be pouring the sauce right on top first to try. Because I know exactly what you're thinking. I know my steaks don't look that good right now, but watch this.
Oh, good. Flamethrower, huh? Right on the steak. Okay, I think he would have gotten a better sear with a super hot cast iron skillet with a little bit of oil on it. That sear would have been much more consistent. Putting oil into a pan, it's just a conductor of heat, right? It's helping you put a dry heat source directly onto whatever product you're cooking in the pan. The pan is getting heated up by a heating element like a flame, and then that's transferring onto whatever's on the pan. If you put the steak on there dry, yes, it'll sear it, but number one, it'll be very directional heat, and also it can burn much more easily, versus if you put some oil on there. Remember, frying something, searing something, that's actually a dry cooking method. Yes, oil is a liquid, but when they say dry cooking method, it's minus water. There's no water in it, so you're not cooking with water. That would boil it, right? So by searing something with some oil, that's a dry cooking method, and that oil is giving you a consistent transfer of heat across the entire product, so you get that really nice consistent sear. That's still gonna be delicious as hell, don't get me wrong, but for me and my money, I would have rather put it on a cast iron, super hot cast iron skillet to get a more consistent sear. But still good. That's still good. Gotta catch my drool. Ooh! 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 Look at that perfect medium rare. And this is what you get with sous vide, is that consistent color from one end of the protein to the other end. Oh, very nice. You know, it's different from grilling, whereas, you know, this is a reverse sear, right? So you're sous videing it, you're cooking it slowly first, then you're searing at the end, versus, you know, searing on a grill or on a pan and then finishing in the oven, and or just finishing the steak completely on the pan, depending on the size of the steak. Generally, when you cook steak on a pan all the way or on a grill all the way, the outside of it will be pretty much well done, and then the closer you get into the center of the steak, you know, then it's going to be more rare. Both are good, both give you a different product, but both are equally as delicious in my opinion. Creamy Maggi sauce with garlic and onion. Fuck yeah. Fuck yeah, all day. Oh, yes.
All right, everybody, here we got our beautiful
Fuck these guys that are with Guga right now. I want to be in those seats.
steaks, gentlemen, with a little bit of side dish.
I'm happy, bro.
Why are you happy?
It's the first time
Yeah, I would be
in
too.
a lot of videos that you say we have our beautiful steaks, and I can actually be like, yeah, we do.
They do
We
look
do
fantastic.
have beautiful steaks today.
I got
What's
a
that
little
mean?
experience.
Wait. I'm sitting down and it is beautiful steaks like you say. Well, why would he say that? I'm not really understanding the context, because the Guga Foods video that I saw, I mean, it looked delicious, and like the guys were clearly enjoying it. Oh, you know, maybe it's because he does all the funky stuff. Like they did the same thing, the Guga Foods video, they did the control where it was a regular steak, and then they did the dry aged steak with yeast, which they were like, ooh, it tastes like blue cheese. Okay, so, all right, forget it. Moving on.
All right, but this one is by the request of our viewers. So, you know, they always have amazing ideas.
I think this is gonna be a real good one, just because we have our own individual sauces.
Exactly.
Now I can be extra gluttonous.
Fair enough. Let's give this a go.
I want to mention, I'm sorry I keep pausing before they get to the eating, but Guga mentioned the viewers are the ones that recommend the coolest shit, and that is very true to my channel. While videos like this don't get the views like my Uncle Roger ones, I really enjoy these videos and learn. I love learning things because, you know, I don't know everything. I've been a professional chef for 18 years, but I'm still learning things constantly. I keep this book with me, close by me, because I don't remember all the science all the time. And if anything, you guys call me out on it, and sometimes I have to give myself a refresher. This is called the McGee, by the way, on food and cooking. Really boring fucking book that'll put you to sleep. But anything as far as food science goes, that book will tell you.
All right, let's dig in the first one, please. Here is our beautiful sous-vide steak. It just smells like heaven, everybody.
So tender.
Enough talking. Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
I want to just hug Guga Foods.
Oh, it never gets old.
Control.
Come on.
I'm so hungry. I didn't eat
Control
breakfast yet.
is always the key, everybody. Absolutely delicious.
Sous vide steak is just so freaking flavorful and tender. It blows me away every single time I try it.
The number one question I always get asked, which one do you like better, Guga? Is it charcoal steak on the grill or is it a sous vide steak? Listen, there's a reason I have two channels.
All right, I mentioned something about that earlier.
I can't pick.
There you
Sometimes
go. He can't pick either. They're both fucking delicious.
I'm on the mood for this. Sometimes I'm on the mood for the outside. So we can all agree this one is amazing?
Control's always amazing, bro.
Couldn't agree more.
Very good. Let's go for the second one. Now, the second one is a special sauce, which is the sauce I just made right there. I want your guys' honest opinion. I already dunk a little bit, not gonna lie. But I say we go for an extra dunk.
Okay. I was just about to ask if we can dunk this.
Let's give this a go. Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
Oh, yeah, papa.
My goodness, that sauce is insanely good.
I don't know what's happening with my arm, but I did something there. That was amazing, everybody. That was amazing.
Immediately, the first thing I taste is that just ridiculous creaminess that you get, and it's so savory. I love it. Sous vide steak, super juicy and tender,
so
but
hungry.
the sauce really brings it all home with the crazy amount of flavors and just creaminess that you get from it. I love this sauce.
I think it's extremely flavorful.
Okay, that's kind of a pet peeve of mine when someone describes something as it's really flavorful. It's like, come on, man, do better than that. You know what? I'm pretty sure now that I said that, one of you fuckers is probably gonna make a compilation of me saying that looks very flavorful. But it is a pet peeve of mine. When I hear someone else do it, it annoys me. I don't notice if I do it, and now I'm self-conscious.
It's so flavorful that you can't pinpoint it.
I think what Angel said is really important, where it just tastes like there's so many complex flavors here. It's really hard to nail down what exactly it is. Like I taste some mushroom, it tastes like mac and cheese a little bit. Like
There's even like a flavor that's familiar but like not familiar at the same time.
that's why I kind of say mac and cheese. I don't know. That's
Right? It's like there's something in there that you feel like you've had it.
What you're both trying to describe is what's called the fifth taste, umami. That's what it's called, the umami.
Yeah, it does linger too.
The savory element. Wonderful. Guga, you the man. I really should have ate breakfast before I did this.
This is rich of umami, everybody. That's how I can describe it.
wait.
Damn, hold on. Did you just
Whoa.
do magic right there?
Where'd you get those?
Watch out, everybody. I'm gonna do some magic for you guys because I'm ready for the side dish.
Okay.
But first, do we agree that this sauce was amazing?
Yes.
Now let's try this side dish. I must give a little quick warning, okay? There's a little bit of spiciness in here.
I'm interested to see how spicy it is because it does not smell spicy whatsoever.
Gochugaru Korean red chili flake is not very spicy. It's not a hit you over the head type of spice at all.
Cheers, everybody.
Cheers. That's delicious.
That's nice.
This is the perfect pasta for Guga.
Why?
Because not spicy.
Not spicy at all.
I do get a little bit of heat after you finish chewing and you swallow it, but it's like Angel said, it's very mild. It's nothing crazy.
These guys had the one chip challenge. After that, they had no more spiciness fear. If you haven't seen that video, you should. All right, let's move on because it's all about this steak now. You guys ready?
Oh yeah.
All right, dig in. Let me know. Give me your honest
Cooked
opinion
in
in here.
Maggi sauce.
I want to know
So sous vide with Maggi sauce rubbed on it and then seared.
when is better, the sauce on the side or this steak. Are you guys ready?
So no dip.
No dipping.
No dipping.
Let's see. Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
Oh.
That's so strange without the sauce. Because it tastes like the sauce.
It tastes like the sauce.
It's exactly like Angel said. It's like the sauce is already baked into it.
That is nice. I like it.
It's good. I think that it has the flavor of the previous sauce. It's really flavorful. It's really nice. Like Guga was saying, it has that umami flavor. For me though, it's just lacking that creaminess that you get from the last steak.
I will say that this is a completely different flavor in the steak that changes the profile of the steak a bit.
If I had to pay for any of these steaks, I'm paying for the second one. The control with the dip is by far the best experience.
This steak is amazing. The third one, which was cooked on it, it's great. But at the same time, because you get to experience two things, cooking the sauce on the side is better. Do we all agree?
Yeah, I would agree with that overall. Great video, by the way. I'm not going to really score this because this is more of an experiment on Guga's part versus like making a dish and trying to get it right, so to speak. Really, really cool, fun video. For me, I prefer to keep my protein simple unless it's like a roast, then I'll, maybe rub it with something, or if it's, something I'm going to smoke, put in, to barbecue. Sure, I'll rub something on, but generally a steak, salt and pepper, seared, whether it's sous vide and then seared later, or seared on the grill and finished in the oven. Whichever way, I still like to keep my steak simple. Great video, everyone. Thank you for the suggestions. Make sure you keep letting me know what you want to see next. And with that said, I am Chef Brian Tsao, not your typical chef, and I'll see you really soon.